Today we're doing the installation on a Can-Am Defender HD11, the Ryco kit number 8311. So to get started, we're going to remove the front dash cover. And if you need to, you can disconnect the windshield gas struts from the bottom supports. That makes it easier to get the dash out. And then start by taking off the outside corner pieces on the dash. And then you can remove fasteners that hold the dash on. There's two underneath each of the sides, and then there's fasteners down the middle. And once you get that out, you can remove the dash, get it all out, lift it up. It gives you great access to get into to do all that, to install everything. And then you take two fasteners on the center firewall cover and remove that, and then that allows you to run the wires up to the front really easy. Next we'll mount the turn signal horn switch on to the column. There's two-piece bracket on that switch. This switch bracket B is already installed on the turn signal horn switch, and then you use the 5mm expandable nuts and put in, and then bolt that to the shroud. And then you take the bracket B, which is on your switch, and then bolt it with the two bolts to the bracket A. You just bolt it on the shroud, tighten up them two bolts, and then you take the wires from the turn signal switch and cable tie it to that hole that's in the side of the bracket, and then route the wires to the right and then above the spring, pivot spring, and that towards the center, dash towards the center of the vehicle. And then once you get it in there, you can start hooking things to all of the connections. Start by hooking up the flasher relay, and then hook up the power ground harness, the 4-pin, and watch on the connections, the green to green, so on that. And then we're going to go to the rear turn signal harness and route that. So on the center console, there's plastic push pins. You remove them, then you can lift that panel cover. You can lift that out to allow access to route the wire. Then you go to the rear of the machine and take the battery cover off. Put the seat down just a hair, then pull that in towards the center. That cover will pop right out. And on that center console on the rear, the center tunnel, you just lift it up and put a block under it so that you can route the wire through. You don't need to completely remove that. Then lower the tailgate down and take the bolts out that's allowing you access into the taillights. You do not need to remove the tail light, but just take bolts out, allow you to get to the wires that's at the back of it. Then take the bolts out holding the heat shroud on there, because there's wires that go back and forth across the rear, and we'll be running wires across there also. Then installing the rear turn signals, you start at the passenger side. Unplug the male plug out of the tail light, and then plug the harness that's marked passenger side. Plug the male in into the tail light, then the female in into the other male, and then route the short harness that's marked driver's side across the rear of the machine. Route it over across the rear and plug it into the driver's side. On the driver's side, when you're hooking up the male and the female ends, you notice there's two bullet connectors on that side. When we get to that point, that's where your license plate light will hook into. And then you go back to the passenger side and route that wire up next to the frame, and then forward through up above the battery, and route it underneath that rear center console cover towards the front, and underneath that cover then there's another little small cover up at the front that's got 3 bolts in it, kind of a triangular shaped cover. You lift that up, then you're able to pull the harness, route it up following the factory wiring, then push it right up, and it comes out up underneath your dash, right at your dashboard, across the front from your glove box, and then plugs into the rear turn signal harness plug. And then also after that, you plug in the brake interface, go red to red on the rear turn signal harness, and then you plug in the brake interface to the turn signal switch where it says brake interface harness. The other end of that has got a round bullet connector that hooks to the white wire coming off of your rear harness. So that's got your brake strobe interface and the rear harness all hooked up. Next we'll work on the dash indicator harness. When you choose the spot you want to put your dash indicators, remember that they're quite bright, but you want them so they're visible to the driver, but they're pointing not directly into his eyes, because then it's really bright, especially at night when you try to see. They're just too bright, so kind of just have it so they're shining, but not right in your eyes. So pointing down from the top of the dash works good because you're visible, but it doesn't blind you. You drill 2 9/32 mounting holes, and then you put the rubber grommets into the hole, and then from the back you push the lights into the grommet until the flush is slightly protruding. And a little bit of moisture on that LED light when you push it into the grommet makes it easier to push them into the grommet. Just be careful, they're quite small and you can't get really crazy with them, it'll break that wire off, but just pushing on the bulb itself and not the wires to get them in, then it works. Then run that harness over and plug it in. It says dash indicator harness on your turn signal switch wires. Plug it in right there. Okay, now we're going to run the horn wire. Comes off your power ground and horn harness. Run it up through that front and mount your horn. And then the 2 connectors go on the bottom of the horn. On that there's already a bolt in place there, and you remove that bolt, put the spacer that's supplied underneath, and screw that bolt back in, and that gives you the right space so that the wires on the front of the horn will clear good. And that's got your horn mounted and the wire running to it, and it's hooked up. Front turn signals, the 6 LEDs up to the front of the machine. We have the 6 LED bracket that you'll put the lights into. Mount the bracket where you want, and then you take the rubber grommet off of the light, and then you push the light through the hole, and then the rubber grommet, you fold it, push it through the bracket, and then you push the grommet back in from the front, set it in, and then put a little moisture around the light, and then push the light back in to the grommet. A little moisture around that, sometimes that will help you get it in there easier. Now once you get it in, you can use some pliers to kind of align them so that they all look nice and they're all lined up. And there's various places that you can put that to mount it, kind of wherever, what your preference is. Yeah, there's different options on where you can mount that bracket. Whatever works for you, whatever your preference is. Just keep in mind you gotta have a place where you can route the wires and access that. They're on 60% brightness when they're as a running light, then they go to 100% brightness when you signal them. And another option on that is the trail and turn signal lights and brackets that you can, as another option for that machine, the HD11 also. If you've ordered them, then you can, there's already 2 holes in the bumper that match up the holes in the bracket. You bolt them on with the bolts, and it goes over that little fitting, the hole right in your bumper. Makes it look really factory. And then you run the front harness through the front, and then the the switch, and goes in line on the front turn signal harness, and you put that switch next to your other light switches and stuff, and that enables you to turn the running lights on and off on your trail lights on and off, but your signal lights will work even if the trail lights are shut off. They still function either way. You can route that wire that comes with the switch and plug it into the front turn signal harness, and then the other end of it plugs into your front harness that you routed up through the dash. That's the A option on your kit if you've ordered that. You can route the wires, just kind of tuck them up underneath there, and keep in mind where to put them so that they're up out of the way. You're not going to get something moving or anything touching them. Then we're going to go to the rear and mount the license plate holder and the license plate light. When you put that on, make sure that when you tip the bed up that it clears, that doesn't hit anything, and so that when you drill the hole and mount it on, it's all clear. But what you can do is mount, there's one of the holes that we took the heat shield off, use that for one of the plate holders, and then mark the other one and drill a small pilot hole where the other one's going to use the self-tapping screw provided, and then go into the frame of the vehicle, and that mounts your plate on. And then you can put your license plate light through, tighten that nut up. Remember, it's aluminum, it doesn't, so you don't over tighten that. Route that up to your driver's side rear tail light, and it plugs into the two billet connectors that we seen earlier, red to red, black to black on your license plate light. And then that's all set up, ready to go. And go ahead and put your heat shield bolts back in. Then on your power and ground is your last step. There's right in the center of the machine, there's two terminals. There's a ground, and the red one is the power. There's no nuts on them, but we provide a flange nut that you can put on that, and then you put the power and ground adapter onto that bolt, and then run it up and plug it into the bullet connectors on your power and ground harness. That hooks up the final step to hook up power to the kit to fire up everything, and it's all ready to go. That extra black ground wire, just run it around, hook it up too, and then at that point you'll want to test everything before you start tying it all up and everything. Just test it, make sure it's all functioning correctly, and if it is, everything works good, then go ahead and use the cable ties and tie everything up nice out of the way, and then go ahead and put everything back together, and you're set. It's time to go ride after that. When you're to that point and it's all together, then you push the button.
That was easy.